Now, there's no way that I am going to get your name right. I have zero chance of saying it. I'm going to give it a shot. Stefani Buhajla. Stephanie, did I get your name anywhere close?
That is actually 100% correct.
No way!
I'm very impressed. Yes, you did a great job.
All right, Stephanie Buhajla. Uh, Stephanie's the easy part. I got to get this Buhajla. Stephanie Buhajla. Okay, very good. Uh, from Heritage Action, Senior Director of Communications at Heritage Action and a trained pollster. We were very excited about you getting on today because there's a lot of fake news out there saying Republicans are falling apart, MAGA's divided, there is no America first, everybody's mad at everybody, we're all going to die. Um, you look at the Texas outcome. The Democrats in the primary outvoted Republicans in their primary by about 150,000 votes, 200,000 votes. That's not been seen in 40 years. So something's going on, no doubt about it. And we were really excited about getting you on today, Steph, to kind of shed light on what you're seeing as a trained pollster, what is going on in our movement.
Well, I mean, the idea that we're divided is just not correct. There's very strong bipartisan support for election integrity. Every poll that we see that's out there that has been coming out shows that the numbers are anywhere, depending on party and poll, anywhere from 70 to 90%. And our numbers that we showed on our poll recently, that we did just a couple weeks ago, are right in line with that. 82% of Americans don't want to see their votes diluted by ineligible ballots that are coming out of states that have more holes in their elections than Swiss cheese. They're tired of it.
So this constant drumbeat that our movement is divided and Republicans are dispirited. You're saying that you're not seeing that.
No, no, I'm not seeing that at all. When we polled 5 states, North Carolina, Maine, Alaska, Ohio, and Georgia. And across those 5 states, the party was very unified. They're very upset with Republicans who are not supporting election integrity, our data showed, and that they're far more likely to vote for their senator again for reelection if they support election integrity. And so there's not really a lot of sense to opposing this for anybody. I respect John Fetterman for coming out in support of it. I think he can see the writing on the wall. It's too bad that folks like John Ossoff can't see it. But we're going to replace him, and everything's going to be fine. And then we'll have more seats in the Senate. So if they want to take the Tim Walz approach to election integrity, which Minnesota probably has the worst record in the country for election laws, if they want to take that approach and lose their seats, I encourage them to keep doing so.
So why is it out there like why aren't Republicans turning out? I mean, we saw it it started with Pennsylvania, that Senate seat, then the Texas seat in North Dallas. We lost that. Trump had won it by 20. We lost a seat in Athens, Georgia. Trump plus 25 lost that. Uh, why aren't Republicans turning out?
So I've been studying this for about 6 years now, and one of the largest indicators is voter apathy. The idea that the one vote, one person, one vote, people don't connect with that anymore because they don't feel like their vote counts as one. They feel like it counts as maybe 0.25 because you have situations where, like in California, you have massive amounts of people voting who shouldn't be voting, and nobody does anything about it. So when we're talking about they're manipulating the census for apportionment, and so when they're creating these districts, like what's going on in Virginia right now, which is very unfortunate, right? They're manipulating the districts to make sure that they're blue. And then they're flooding these districts with illegal immigrants so that they can continue to keep them that way. And then using gerrymandering to dilute the votes. People are smart. They know that this is happening. They can see that states like California and New York are creating a huge imbalance in the electoral system. And so they figure, why bother? Why should I go to the polls?
So, I mean, I've never really heard that put that way. I think you're onto something. Obviously, Stephanie, you've got the data to back this up. You got the polling to back this up. But I think you're right. But then you turn around, and we've got the Republican leadership of the Senate won't get rid of the paper filibuster. in order to pass the SAVE Act, in order to solve the problem you just said, which would solve the turnout issue, which would turn the election back towards us. Reconcile that for me.
It's special interests have a stranglehold on our political system. And it's another problem, right? It's one of the things that we saw in Zuckerbucks is that special interests are coming into election offices and they're pumping them full of money so that they will make decisions uh, based on where the money comes from. And so it's an unfortunate situation that we see in both parties, right? That we're tired of seeing. And now we have Trump obviously in the background brokering a deal to try and get this done. We saw coming out on X last night and this morning between Cornyn and Paxton. And so I'm really interested to see how the deal maker plays this one out.
What did you think, Stephanie Buhajla with us? She is a top pollster, senior director of communications at Heritage Action. Very knowledgeable about polling. And the thing I like about Stephanie is you're really not going to get the spin. She's just going to tell you it is what it is, which is why I like having her on. But I want to get to that X that Paxton put out that I spent 30 minutes on today that I thought was the most brilliant X in the history since it was invented. And basically boxed everybody in. And he said, yeah,
Yeah.
I'll get out. Hey, Chris Lasavita, I know you don't want to spend $100 million in negative ads, even though you would like to get to 15% of that. I get it. But I'll get out. President Trump, I'll get out. John, I'll roast marshmallows. We'll do kumbaya. All I got to do is pass the SAVE Act, get rid of the filibuster, and I'm out. If you don't do it, then there's no reason for me to get out because that's really the reason I'm running. What did you think of that X post?
I like you. I was up late last night, scrolling back and forth, and and cross checking it against other posts, and it is. I mean, it's got all the hallmarks, of a Trump deal on it, which is it just absolutely stunning to see that come out. So, I can't wait. I mean, it's Friday. We might get more. We might not get more news today, but Monday. Let's see if we get that filibuster.
Well, I mean, what did they do now? I mean, that's I thought it was checkmate because if Trump endorses Cornyn without getting rid of the filibuster, which means he's got to get Thune who wants Cornyn. If he doesn't do that and he endorses him, here's the problem. I don't care how much money they spend. Paxton's going to win. So then the whole thing is a disaster. Paxton is going to win just based on that one issue. Paxton wins. I don't care how much money La Savita spends. And if they get rid of the filibuster and pass the SAVE Act, then Paxton becomes a national hero. So he wins there, and then we win that seat in Texas, and we don't have to spend $100 million. I can't think of a more brilliant checkmate box-in than that X.
It was a brilliant chess move, and nobody saw it coming. It's just like I said, it's classic Trump. Like you said, either we get the SAVE Act, or we're not going to lose Texas. Either way, we're going to have a Republican in the seat. I think. So that's not the risk. The risk is, do we get election integrity done once and for all? The president spent 3 full minutes in the State of the Union talking about it, saying that it's number one priority. We got to get this done. We got to get DHS funded. The House took care of that yesterday, so now it's the Senate's turn to take care of that. Um, get that, stop defunding the police, stop defunding federal law enforcement, get it done, get onto the business of securing our elections so that we can make sure that these good policies that the president works on, that our Republican governors are working on, that our House and Senate are working on, can get passed and get enshrined into law. Because it's one thing to do an executive order, but the next time Blue is in the Oval Office, Blue is going to remove those executive orders.
Unbelievable. Stephanie Buhajla with us. She's a communications senior director at at Heritage Action, and also one of their key pollster. Okay, let's get to the midterms. Right, you're doing the polling. You've already stated that the Republican Party is not divided over Iran. They're not really divided over MAGA is not falling apart. How do we turn the corner? What do we have to do to win these midterms and hold the House?
Well, first of all, we need to, the Senate needs to do the will of the people, and they're consistently saying we need to secure these elections, and they're not wrong. Because if we don't, what are we even doing? Why are we even here? Because we're going to continue to lose ground in the states. Apportionment is going to affect that. And the whole reason for the Electoral College is to protect our rural friends in places like Montana and Kansas and Oklahoma, and uh, we're losing the plot. And so, if we don't get this done, it is my opinion that the midterms are not going to turn out the way that we hope. Right now, the numbers that I'm looking at show that Republicans have they're hungry. They want to get this done, right? But again, back to the voter apathy, and they just feel like, well, why bother if the people that I'm sending to Washington or sending to my state legislature are not going to do the things that I elected them to do? Then then why should I vote for them, right? So it's kind of the delegate versus statesman argument of political science, and you have a bunch of people who think they're acting as statesmen, that they're actually doing the will of that they know better, and that they're going to do these things that they think that they should do, against the delegate theory of what people actually sent them there to do. And so people are disappointed.
Stephanie, I think you nailed it. You're the first person who's come on who has identified, and so I want to thank you for this, that has identified the core of the losses we're having and the low turnout. And you're the first person to articulate that in a way that everybody can understand. The reason our base is dispirited and not turning out is because they don't think their vote matters. You're the first person I've heard to say that, and you're doing it through not hypothesis but data analysis, correct?
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah, I've been polling this issue since 2020. I think, yeah, 2020. Um, it's consistent, and it's consistent across, and not just when it comes to polling on election integrity, but all issues. Is that people just feel like, well, they don't care. Politicians don't care. We've been saying it for decades, right? That we just feel like they don't care, and then they do things that we don't like, and then we say, well, this is why we don't like you, and then the politicians do it again, and it just keeps cycling over and over. But the edge that the Democrats have is that they speak to people's emotions. They make emotional arguments, which are easy for people to connect to, because they say, "Oh, well, I can relate to that." And then they're voting based on a feeling. They're voting on vibes rather than actual good policy. It is what it is. But the Republicans need to get it together, right? They need to start talking about, get back to the kitchen table issues, get back to radio, get back to talking directly to the American people about issues that affect them. But you're not going to be able to do that if you're not in office, and you're not going to be able to get elected if you've got a bunch of Democrats who are slashing apart our election laws. You're just not going to do it. But if you're in office, you can talk about the things that matter, like housing affordability and the economy, and stopping things like unrealized capital gains tax. Like, it's mind boggling. In Virginia, the utility rates have already gone up, and like Obama said, under my plan, electricity is going to necessarily skyrocket. Well, Spanberger's delivering on his promise, even if he couldn't. So,
All right, Stephanie, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for your time. I live in Washington, D.C., and I'm running for Ward 2 chairman. And so what they do here is this is why it's almost laughable. So everybody gets a ballot in the mail. If you're a registered voter, they just mail you a ballot. Just comes, right? You don't have to do anything. There's no absentee. There's no, you got to fill out a form like when I was in Pennsylvania. Everybody gets a ballot. And then what the Democrats do is they go and harvest the ballots. And of course, we have no ability to do that because it's not what we do. So they go harvest all the ballots. And then there's no voter ID. So the ballots they can harvest, anybody could just walk in and vote with
yeah.
no ID. And you don't have to even be a citizen. So basically, the people at the Iranian embassy are voting in my election.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can't
No,
make this up. And
you're
then
not wrong.
it's laughable, and that's why I'm running here. I'm just going to try to find a way to exploit the system.
God bless you. Yeah.
I might have to hire you to take a poll if I can raise enough money. And then they have ranked choice voting. That's the other thing. So I'm going to use that to my advantage. There's got to be a way to figure out how to take all the crazy things they've done and turn it to our advantage. I'm going to probably have to hire you as my chief pollster in DC. Figure this out because you're the first person that's come on and told me what the story is. So I want to thank you for that. You're really
Thank you
good.
for
And we
having
will
me
have you
on.
back. I've run through a lot of pollsters on my show, right? And they're all my friends. And, got the guy in Atlanta. He's a good guy. We got the guy, that does Rasmussen. Mark's a good guy. They're all good guys. So I've run through a lot of them. You're the first person who has nailed what is really happening. And I want to
I
thank you for
appreciate
that.
that. Thank
And
you for
thank you
having
from
me
the
on.
audience. Hey, people want to follow you, Steph. Where do they go?
I'm on X. My first and last name, Stephanie Buhajla. Good luck spelling it on X. But if you also go to Heritage Action, you'll see that they've shared some of my posts as well. So I'm easy to find.
All right, Stephanie. Well, we thank you for that. And now that I can say your last name, Buhajla, now I'll have to
Buhajla,
have you
yeah.
on. Now I'll have to have you on a weekly basis. You're going to be my pollster going through the midterms. Are you willing to do that?
Oh, yeah, let's do it.
Okay, done. I'm going to set it up now. Stephanie, thank you.
Thank you for having me on, John. I appreciate it. Have a great day.